Hi, my name is Emma and I'm 32 years old. I work as a financial consultant and I take pride in my ability to manage money wisely. Some might say I'm overly cautious, but that's just who I am. Growing up as the younger sister of Megan, who is 3 years older, I learned early on that if I wanted something, I had to work hard for it. Megan has always been the star of our family, the one who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. She's the one who got the accolades, the attention, and the support, while I often felt like I was just in the background. Megan married Jake right after college and they quickly started a family. Now they have 2 kids, Lily and Max, and they live in a cramped apartment that feels even smaller with all the toys and chaos. Don't get me wrong, I love my sister and her kids, but it's hard not to notice the favoritism from our parents. They always expected Megan to succeed effortlessly, while I was left to navigate my own path. For me, life has been about saving and planning. I've been fortunate to have a good job and I've been living below my means, cooking at home and avoiding unnecessary expenses. My dream has always been to own a small house in the countryside, a peaceful retreat away from the hustle and bustle of the city. Recently, I finally reached a point where I had enough saved for a down payment. I was ready to make my dream a reality. Growing up, the differences between Megan and me were stark. She was the golden child, the one who could charm anyone with her smile and effortless grace. Our parents adored her, and it was clear from a young age that she could do no wrong. I remember countless family gatherings where the spotlight was always on her achievements, her perfect grades, her athletic prowess, and her social life that seemed to flourish without any effort. Meanwhile, I was the quieter one, the one who preferred to stay in the background, working hard to earn my own accolades. Megan married Jake shortly after graduation, and they quickly started a family. Their apartment is always filled with the sounds of children playing, and while I adore my niece and nephew, I can't help but feel a pang of envy when I see how easily they navigate their lives. They have a support system that I often feel I lack. My parents are always quick to offer help to Megan, whether it's babysitting or financial support, while I've had to figure things out on my own. In contrast, I've been living in a cozy 1-bedroom apartment that my best friend's parents rent to me at a fraction of the market rate. I've been saving diligently, avoiding the temptations of dining out or extravagant purchases. My colleagues often tease me about being too frugal, but I have a plan. I've always dreamed of having my own space, a small country house where I can escape the noise of the city and enjoy the tranquility of nature. As I began my search for a home, I felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. I knew that my family might not understand my desire for a small, quiet place. They've always envisioned me living in a bustling neighborhood close to schools and parks where I could easily be part of the family dynamic. But that's not what I wanted. I craved independence and a space that was truly mine. After years of saving and planning, I finally felt ready to take the plunge. I spent countless evenings browsing real estate websites, looking for the perfect cottage that would fit my vision. I wanted something modest with a cozy feel and a garden where I could grow my own herbs and vegetables. The idea of having a peaceful retreat where I could work remotely. One evening, as I was scrolling through listings, I stumbled upon a charming 2-bedroom cottage that seemed to check all the boxes. It had a wraparound porch, a small garden, and was located about 40 minutes from the city. I could already picture myself sipping coffee on the porch, surrounded by nature. My heart raced with excitement as I realized this could be my future home. Just as I was getting lost in the photos, my phone rang. It was my mother, calling with her usual tone that blended excitement with a hint of authority. "Emma, don't forget we're expecting you for dinner on Saturday," she said, her voice carrying that familiar undertone of command. "Megan and Jake are coming with the kids, and please try to be on time for once." I arrived at my parents' suburban home right on the dot, but the driveway was already full. Megan's minivan took up most of the space, forcing me to park on the street. As I walked in, I could hear the familiar chaos of kids running around, laughter mixed with the occasional cry. It was a scene I had grown accustomed to, but it always felt overwhelming. Emma's here, Megan announced, barely looking up from where she was trying to wrangle Lily and Max. My parents were already settled into their usual roles, Dad with his newspaper and Mom fussing over everyone. I took a moment to check my phone under the table, still thinking about that perfect cottage I had found. I was so absorbed in the idea of my future home that I didn't notice my mom watching me until she spoke up. "What's so interesting on that phone? You barely touched your food," she said, her eyes narrowing slightly. I felt my cheeks warm as all eyes turned to me. I could have made up an excuse about work, but for some reason I decided to be honest. "Actually, I'm looking at houses. I'm thinking about buying one soon." The silence that followed was deafening. Even the kids seemed to sense the shift in the atmosphere. My parents exchanged glances, and I could feel the tension building. I tried to redirect the conversation, complimenting Mom on her lasagna, but I could tell that my announcement had changed everything. As dinner progressed, the usual chatter resumed, but the atmosphere felt off. My parents were still processing what I had said, and I could see the wheels turning in their heads. Megan kept glancing at Jake, who was busy helping himself to another serving of lasagna, seemingly oblivious to the tension. After dinner, as we moved to the living room, my mom finally broke the silence. "Emma, we've been thinking about your house plans," she said, her tone shifting to one of concern. "Have you considered looking for something bigger? You know, something that could accommodate a family?" I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. "Mom, I'm looking for a small country house, just for me. I don't need a big place," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. But my mother's expression shifted to one of disbelief. "Why would you want to live alone? You should think about the future. What if you want to start a family?" she pressed, her voice rising slightly. I could feel my frustration bubbling beneath the surface. "I'm not looking to start a family right now, Mom. I just want a place that feels like home." The conversation quickly spiraled into a debate about what I should want for my life. My parents seemed to have a vision for me that didn't align with my own. I could see Megan nodding along, her eyes gleaming with the idea of a bigger house that could accommodate her family. It was as if they had all sat down and planned my future without even consulting. After that dinner, things only got worse. My parents were relentless in their attempts to sway my decision. I received calls from my mom almost daily, each one filled with excitement about potential houses that were perfect for a family. "Emma, you won't believe the listing I found. It has 4 bedrooms and a huge backyard," she exclaimed one afternoon. I appreciate your enthusiasm, but that's not what I'm looking for," I replied, trying to keep my tone calm. But she wouldn't let it go. "You need to think about what's best for you, and that means planning for the future," she insisted. Then came the messages from Megan. "Hey sis, check this out," she texted, sending me links to massive family homes in the city. Each one was bigger than the last, complete with multiple bathrooms and huge yards. I quickly typed back, "Thanks, but I'm looking for something smaller in the countryside." But the messages kept coming, each one more insistent than the last. I felt overwhelmed and suffocated by their expectations. It was as if they couldn't see that I was trying to carve out my own path. I decided to reach out to a realtor I had found online, someone who had great reviews for really listening to her clients. I explained my vision for a small, cozy country house, and she seemed excited to help me find the right place. After a whirlwind of viewings, I finally found it, the perfect cottage. It was everything I had dreamed of. A charming 2-bedroom home with a wraparound porch and a beautiful garden. I knew I had to make an offer, and I did so without hesitation. The week that followed was a blur of paperwork and negotiations. I put down a larger down payment than required to keep my monthly payments manageable. Each night I fell asleep dreaming of my new home, imagining how I would decorate it and what plants I would grow in the garden. Finally, the day came when everything was signed, and I was officially a homeowner. I felt a rush of excitement and relief wash over me. I couldn't wait to share the news with my family, despite their previous attempts to influence my decision. The following Saturday, I drove to my parents' house for dinner, practically buzzing with excitement. As we settled in for the meal, I could feel the familiar tension in the air. My mom was quick to bring up the topic of housing again, mentioning a neighbor who was selling her house at a good price. Actually, I interrupted, unable to contain myself any longer. I've already bought a house, I announced, my voice filled with enthusiasm. The room fell silent. The clatter of cutlery stopped, and all eyes turned to me in shock. "What do you mean you bought a house?" my dad finally asked, his voice rising in disbelief. I took a deep breath and began to describe my new home, the excitement bubbling inside me. But as I spoke, I could see the anger building on my parents' faces. "How dare you buy a house without consulting us first?" my mom exclaimed, her voice sharp with authority. "We had it all planned out for you." In that moment, I realized how deeply ingrained their expectations were. They had assumed that my new home would be a place for Megan and her family to live, without even asking me what I wanted. I felt a mix of anger and sadness wash over me as I stood my ground. "No, I won't cancel the purchase. This is my home, and I deserve to live where I want," I said firmly. The chaos erupted around me, but I knew I had made the right choice. As I settled into my new cottage, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't experienced in years. I had finally taken control of my life, and it felt liberating. Sometimes, the best family you can have is the one you create for yourself, on your own terms. And for me, that was more than enough.